Welcome to Mr. Fuller's AutoCAD training. What we're going to talk about in this video is how to draw lines and rectangles. And we'll probably hit a couple other little subjects there. But we've already seen the videos that show us how, the different icons and things like that that our program consists of. So we're going to show you how to use those tools. Okay, remember your tools are all up here, and then some status information down here in the bottom right. So we're going to use this to draw lines. Right now we're just going to worry about just plain old everyday lines. And there's a couple of things you want to make sure that you have on your status bar. And you want to make sure that you have this button right here on. It says Dynamic Input. It's a little rectangular button with a plus symbol kind of up in the upper left that represents your cursor. And if you do not have that, you need to go over here to the right to these three lines, which is a customization menu. Click on that, find Dynamic Input, and if the check mark is not visible, you will click on it to make it visible. Okay, so watch, if I click on there and it's no longer visible, that icon is no longer in my status bar. Click on it again, it now has a check mark, and it's now in my status bar. Okay, a couple of other features that we need to make sure that we have on our status bar and that they are turned on is this one right here. It's a square with a smaller square up in the upper left-hand corner, and that is snap cursor to a two-dimensional reference point. And I'll show you how that works in just a moment. And you also want to have this one on. It says show snapping reference lines. Okay, and those are two ways in which you can help guide creating your geometry. This is also a handy one to have on, and it says restrict cursor to specified angles. And you can set this to be whatever you want it to be. And what that does is it just says you can still put any angle that you want to, but it will automatically snap to these particular angles: 90, 180, 270, 360. You could change it to 45, 90, 135, 180 if you wanted to. Okay. So if we have those on our status bar and have them turned on, just like you see here, and I forget what this one is, show annotation. Okay, well, whatever. We'll talk about that one much later. So I'm going to draw a line, just a plain old everyday line. I'm going to click on the line tool, and I can also type in line, the word line. And that's the good thing about AutoCAD is it knows English, or whatever language you have it programmed for. All right, and what you see in the dynamic input, which is what this information to the bottom right-hand side of the cursor is, that's your dynamic input. That allows you to put in specific information such as your distances and your angles and even your X, Y coordinate points. The instruction in that first rectangle that you see to the right of the cursor, it says specify first point. So this dynamic input also gives you instructions. Specify first point, and we will click anywhere that we want, that we need to, and we basically establish the first point of our line. And then we can drag and draw in any direction that we want to. And you see how it's snapping in those green lines? That's where the angle snaps come into play. And that is snapping at the 90, 180, 270, and 360. But now what I can do is I can draw this line as far as I need to, or I can actually type in a distance. If you look in that first box where it has blue around surrounding a number, it's like a highlight, that is telling me the distance of this line. Right now, because I haven't changed anything in my settings yet, but right now that is just plain old units. It can represent inches, it can represent metric, or imperial and metric. It can represent anything I want it to at this moment. Of course, if you come to printing it out or anything like that, then that might have an effect on it. But right now it's what we call unitless. Okay, so it is unitless. Right now it is 4.5139 units. Let's say I want this line to be 7 units long. I can type in 7, hit the enter button, and now I have a 7-unit long line. I can pull this next line out, and basically what I'm doing is kind of drawing a chain of lines. If I pull out for the next line, again, I can set the distance, but I can also set the angle. Right now, I'm at a distance of 2.3218 units. And if I happen to misread that, it's because I can't really see it, because my eyesight's not that great. I got on glasses, and I really need to get a new set. But it looks like it says 2.3218. And I can type in a distance as well here. Let's say I want it to be 5 units. Now, I'm not going to hit the enter button just yet. I am going to hit the tab button. The tab button will change the box from the unit box over to the angle box. And I can type in whatever angle. Let's say I want it to be 32 degrees. So I type in 32 in here. Now I can hit the enter button. All right, so now I have a 32-degree angle that is 6 units long from its start point. And the next feature is, it's the one, I think it's this one. Well, show snapping reference, this one right here, snap cursor to 2D reference points, 2-dimensional reference points. Let's say I want to draw this line a particular length. Let's say I really don't know how long it's going to be that I want it to be, but I know I want it to be even with this little intersection right there. I want to draw it straight out to the side, but even with this intersection. And to do that, there's a feature that I can turn on as I hover over that intersection. If I hover over it, you see that green box appear. And then if I pull off of it, you can see that there is a green plus mark right there on that intersection. That is telling me that the 2D reference is turned on. And as I hover around, you can see that that line that helps guide me to where I should snap will come up every time I cross it. So I don't have to turn it on and then try and stay even with it as I come down to place my line. And of course, if you zoom in or out, that will turn it off. But so here I could snap here if I wanted it to be this long. Now, if I hover over it again, it will turn it off. And that's useful to know because when you start getting some really busy drawings, you sometimes will activate these 2-dimensional reference points accidentally. So to turn it off, you just hover back over it and pull away from it, and it turns it off. Hover back onto it, pull away from it, you're on again. And pull your line until you're perpendicular with that particular intersection. And then you click, and there is your line. Okay, and I'm just going to arbitrarily draw this other line down here. And to show you that again, now I want to stretch this line to be perpendicular with this intersection. There we go. There we go. Okay, so there is how to use the line tool. The next one is the rectangle tool. If you look in the same panel, this is the draw panel that we've been using. We're going to go to a rectangle. This is the rectangle tool. The rectangle tool actually does a couple of things, but we're going to not worry just about rectangles at the moment. So the rectangle tool, if I click on the rectangle tool, it says specify the first corner point, or again, I can enter the XY coordinates to get that first point. All right, so I'm clicking. I've got the first point, and I'm drawing out, from that point. And notice the numbers, how they read in the XY coordinate box. It reads just like a Cartesian coordinate system would. So I'm pulling down to the bottom right. For the X coordinate, I am in the positive numbers, but in the Y coordinates, I am in the negative numbers. If I go up, you can see that they're up and to the right. You can see that they're both positive. Up and to the left, you can see the y coordinates are negative. I'm sorry, the x coordinates are negative, and the y coordinate is positive. Pull down to the bottom left, you can see that both coordinates are negative. So let's say I'm going to draw a box here, and I'm going to specify another corner point, and I can do this just by clicking and again or entering the coordinates. And this second set of coordinates, let me explain one thing here. Let me get out of the box tool or the rectangle tool. Clicking on the rectangle tool. These coordinates that you see here, because I have not started drawing the shape yet, these coordinates are referencing this point right here, the center point of 0, 0, our starting point. Once I click, it's now relative to the point that I clicked on. So if I type in another XY coordinate, what I'm actually doing is I'm typing in the distance, along the x-axis and then along the y-axis. So 5.7176 units currently is what I have for my x-axis. So basically you can type in your distances, whatever distance or whatever measurement system that you're using, either metric or imperial. And let's see if I type in, let's say 6 to make it 6 units in the x-axis, and then I can click on the tab button, and here's where it's important that you realize that those are negative numbers because I am in that that fourth quadrant down there at the bottom right. I'm going to make this one -5. So basically I'm going to have a 6 by 5 unit box or rectangle, whatever you want to call it. And there you go. So there's a rectangle. Pretty simple, but there are a lot of little other nuances that we would have to consider as well as we're drawing this and trying to get accuracy and precision with our drawing. Now the good thing is too that I forget what this is called. Command line, sorry. The command line will actually kind of show you a little bit of a history of what you just did. I just created that rectangle, and it's telling me at 6, -5 XY coordinates for that last corner that I just placed. So that is how you use lines and how you use rectangles. Have fun.